Question one. We're talking 3-4. We want to attack it with gap scheme. So what advantages do we have using the gap scheme run plays, all of them that there are, against a 3-4 defense?
We attacking 3-4 with gap scheme, or the other way around? Did I get that backwards?
We are attacking the 3-4 with gap scheme run plays. That is correct.
Email may have been misleading. I apologize. We'll hit both of them. I promise you.
Yes, we always end up doing that.
When you, because I know when you said it, I said, oh, counter, and then for some reason I had a blank in between. The advantage against a 3-4 is one, you with your gap schemes, you hard to say that there's an advantage. You have an advantage to so we go over red side and white side again.
Yes.
Red side, this is all Coach Bill Mountjoy's teaching, and that's what's become the pistol power offense system. Red side is reduced, white side is wide. So if you take the 3-4, which is where this kind of comes from, the old 5-2 look, if the B gap is closed, so if we have somebody lined up in the B gap, a 3 tech or guard is covered, or however you want to say it, that's a red side. If we have nobody in the B gap, so a 4 tech head up on the tackle, or a 5 tech, then nobody's standing in the B gap, that is a wide side, white side. And so if you take the old 3-4, 4-0, or the old 5-2, 4-0-4 alignment, head up on the guards and head up on the center, that's a double white side. So when we talk about the 3-4 base, we're talking about a double white. The double white has the advantage of it is advantageous to the white side. It is advantageous to run our counter, which is a shorter trap, kicking out with the guard and wrapping either with the tackle on a counter GT or wrapping with the H-back, because that short trap, kind of like a trap, like you would trap a 3 tech, but it's longer, so you got to bring somebody to get the linebacker too. And so you bring either again the tackle or H-back, or you could bring tight end, but I don't think he gets there fast enough just because of his alignment, unless you put him off the ball, in which case he's an H-back. So those guys are, that's a great play. That's a huge advantage because of that 4 tech being out there a little bit wider where we can kick him. And then we have the advantage of running inside zone against a 3-4. Just in general against a 3-4, what we call that in offensive line terminology, we call the 3-4-3-2, because we don't really care what you think your OLBs are.
Right.
You want to be a 5-2, you want to be a 3-4, you want to play them 5x5, you want to play them in a ghost 9 tech up on the line of scrimmage. It really doesn't matter to us, because as far as those 5 offensive linemen are concerned, we're probably handling your 3-2. And what we like about running against a 3-2 is hats for hats. We can run inside zone, and we can do either side, because it's a double white. We can run inside zone, and it gives us a really nice advantage of hats on hats. We run gap scheme, we need to be short trapping, but we still are in a situation where our 5 on your 5, because I have the ability to kick out your 4 tech and make your outside linebackers irrelevant. And I think that's one of the big advantages of gap scheme. And so I say counter, it could also be power. It could be 1 back power, would have a nice advantage on it, as long as you can handle that tackle one-on-one. That end one-on-one with your tackle. That the biggest thing is that short trap scheme with the I have run regular trap, inside trap, what we call inside trap. I have run regular inside trap where just the guard pulls and kicks the end. And normally we trap the first man on, or the rule is trap the first man on or outside the guard.
Right.
So a 2-tech, a 3-tech, head up or outside shade. 3-tech is the ideal for that. And we would do that as an H trap, where we would, out of pistol power offense, we would do that as an H trap, and we would either line the H up at a 0 and a fullback look, or we would slide him in from a strong or weak set. I don't like that as much, because I feel that it's a little harder. That trap takes a little bit longer. And we don't always get the linebackers with it. In theory, it should be better. But I don't know what it is about. It just never was. And it took too long to get on that end.
Right.
But we do the same thing where we're wrapping the linebacker. I can take the tackle down to the backside linebacker. I can down block this is another thing. I can down block on the nose. I love those down blocks on the nose. And then I can wrap, and it makes it a lot better. I can use the second puller. The other one that I really think is an advantage with gap schemes is a lot of us that are running gap schemes, not specifically gap scheme, but we have the tight end. And with the 4-tech, presumably at least one of those outside linebackers is force, most likely. It may not be. Could be using both safeties as force. But usually one of those outside linebackers is going to be force. Needs to stay outside, where we can down block with the tight end and run it a little bit wider, and get around that guy, especially if you're pinching. Now, especially if the 3-4 is going to try to get into a 4-eye. It's going to try to get into a tight front. Then we're going to put a tight end in the game. And like that's always been my thing with tight front, is like, what do you do with the tight end?
So when I start thinking advantages, I know gap scheme, and I call pin and pull gap scheme. I assume it is. You're blocking down and you've got some dudes kicking and rolling out. And if you've just got 3 dudes on the line, I have at least 2 pullers getting wide. And then if, like you said, pull a tight end of the game, that's just another dude that's going wide. So H-back is, now I've got 4 cats that are out here lead blocking for my tailback, right? So that's kind of where I see an advantage if you want to run pin pull type stuff. Buck sweep, kind of the same thing. You just don't have enough dudes, and we're going to run it inside of that outside backer or kick him. And so then what are you doing? If I'm kicking your force, he better be an absolute dog, or an iguana.
Iguana. Yeah.
Or he's going to be beat all night, because we can once again down block your 4-tech. If we're kicking your 4 and running inside, that's okay too. But we've got it right there. We have pull wrap pretty quickly. So I don't know, just in my young mind, that's kind of what I think about when I see less guys on the line of scrimmage. What do we gain an advantage by pulling one of those outside backers down with a tight end? Because a lot of guys will bring that backer down, and he'll come play a loose 9 or whatever.
Yeah, because and that's fine. That's what we would do. We would play a 6. He plays just like a defensive end. The thing that I see is a lot of 3-4s don't do that. That guy is not equipped to do that. He's going to walk out there in a 9, and then you're screwed. You're a 2-gap defense now. Are you prepared to be a 2-gap defense? Too many 3-4s make that end. And I say 3-4s, but we talk about the 5-2s that we see now, where those guys are up the field. I love seeing that because we're going to kick that guy out. He's going to be a vertical seam because he's going to be up the field. He's going to be an easy kick out, and you don't have any way to match it. You really don't, especially if you try to blitz a linebacker or something, because now nobody can scrape over. Well, buck sweep is interesting though. My thing with buck sweep would be, I personally would not like buck sweep.
Okay.
I don't run buck sweep. So here's my thing though. Pull the guard.
Mm-hmm.
I can down block the tight end on the 4. When I pull both guards, my center has a solo block on the nose. He doesn't have an angle. He doesn't have any sort of angle. And I know, he can fire block and get through, get across and all that stuff. I get all of that. I understand the scheme. But he doesn't have an angle. And I love gap scheme because of angles. And we're missing. There's still the angle at the point of attack. We're still going to kick out. We're still going to wrap. We're still going to down block by a tight end. But the center and the backside tackle, for that matter, they don't have an angle, right? They've got to block the 0 and the 4, backside 4. They've got to block them on their own. That's the one that I'm not I'm not a wing T buck sweep guy. That's the one that I'm not sure, I know that there's ways to do it, but I'm not sure if I would like that.
Oh, for sure. So we kind of talked advantages. What problems may we see? So if we want to run gap scheme, they have a 3-4. What are the issues they're going to show up on game night that we can't anticipate by game film or whatever?
A lot of it goes to what we just said. You have uncovered guards, which makes very easy guard reads. So if they're doing a good job teaching guard reads, the linebackers should be right where your guys go, right? And if they're having to, especially if they're having to solo block on a tackle or on a 4 tech or a 0 tech, they're going to run to big time problems because I don't have anybody who can climb to those linebackers. And they're going to be able to free flow and get there. They are, if they do a good job with just in general, you don't know where they're going to be because they could be, again, a slanting 3-4 look, head up on a tackle or head up on the center. Let me just take the guy head up on the center or take the guy head up. Let's take the guy head up on the tackle because it's different letters. I don't know if he's responsible for B gap or C gap. I have no idea, and I won't know until the ball is snapped. And I can combo him, but we've got to work, unlike the 3 tech or the 5 tech, that the old zone rule of 90-50-10. If he's lined up in a shade in my zone, he's got a 90% chance of being there. If he's lined up head up, he's going to be slanting. It's 50-50. If he's lined up, shaded the other way, I got a 10% chance of him ending up with me. So I know every snap, assuming that we're in a base 4-0-4 look, head up across the board, every snap, it's a 50-50 look. Now if I'm comboing those guys, that shouldn't be too bad. If I'm trying to down block those guys, I don't know if he's going to be a really hard down block because he's way inside of me or a really easy down block because he's stepping to me. Also, I don't know how he's going to step to me. He may step to me with all the force in the world looking to light me up if I down block him. So another one with the center, the way that we block power, we got to go back and block a 4. That's a long way. So our center better be quick, better be good at blocking back. I haven't had a problem with that, but we work a lot of down block. We really work on that guy getting back there. So because we can get run through from that 4 tech. If we don't get back fast enough and that 4 tech follows the guard, let's say he slants inside and follows the guard, and we don't do a good job on the hinge, we can lose him. So those are just there's not, again, it's like everything else. There's not inherent this doesn't work. Power is not a great play against 3-4. It's not, it's not the ideal because, again, power is a red side play. So if you're a great power team, then hopefully you're good at counter too. Or hopefully you're like us and you're good at inside zone as well. So power, that's not to say you can't run it. But power is not my first choice. One of the things about it is we've got a combo tackle tight end. So we have to combo that. If you try to run it without a tight end and kick out the 4, that can be almost impossible. especially if he slants inside and squeezes down, you're going to end up logging him. Now, if you're okay logging him, that's fine, but that's not power. I mean, not that logging him is not, if you log your power, that's fine if the guy crashes down the side. But the thing is, you're not calling power to log. You're calling power to kick that guy out and run inside of him. So if you're having to constantly log the guy, you don't want to run power. You want to kick him out to use counter, short trap. So probably the biggest thing is power that I've run into is power is not a great play. What happened, what I started to say was that combo, that end, especially if he slants C gap, if he slants to the outside hip of the tackle, you may not get, and let's say that he does that and the Mike backer tries to blitz B gap. So they run a C gap stunt and blitz the B gap with that guy. So let's say they run a strong side stunt, everybody strong, slant, everybody strong. And then they blitz the Mike backer B gap. Tight end's got to come down and he's going to get knocked out. Like, it's not going to be it's an angle, but it's not a great, I don't get that combo whoosh, coming down on him, because anything else, even a 5-tech, he's still attacking my tight end. This becomes almost like trying to combo a 6-eye inside shade of the tight end. It's really hard. And so I'm not going to get that horizontal movement that I want on this, because my tackle is also going to have to immediately come off because he's got somebody attacking his inside, that blitzing linebacker. My guard has to block down on the center, on the nose, to help center, or to help the center if you combo it, or like we do, we block back on the 4-tech. So as a result, that power is getting bounced immediately. If the backer does a good job filling, if they, that's a stunt that can really take away your strong side power. And then combo with that, let's say that they do bring the Samback or the OLB down tight and use the strong safety for force. I got a lot of bodies in that power area. It's just not ideal for power. That's probably my biggest concern with it.
We've not faced a lot. I guess we did face a lot of 3 front teams, a lot of 5-2 teams, but we weren't really looking to run that much power. I think counter did hit better for us as well. And now that I think back, we were a lot of buck sweep and counter, but all those make sense. You can't down block on a dude that's on top of you, and if you're having to combo everything in power, like you run out of kids pretty quick, right? And what if you don't want to use a tight end? Like, that makes it even tougher. And I know a lot of people do that. I guess, well, it kind of takes us into like problem solving here, though. So, how are you solving those problems? You can adjust an H back, right? So you can start running power and move your H over to that side, and how he's helping pick up one of those tough angles. That would be the first way I would do it, making more of a sniffer back than a wing. And so now he's assisting wherever he's needed. I would assume that most likely still from the wing position, just to let everyone get down. But also, I didn't really think about the center having to get all the way back to a 4. That's a very long down block. It can be, especially if he slants weak and he's playing outside. Now the center's kind of just running around.
As long as he slants away, he's probably not going to come all the way back down to me.
Right.
Where I get in trouble is if he's quick slanting inside and he beats me across the ball, and I don't do a good job of moving to him. That's probably the hardest part. But all you got to do, one of the things that guys look at with that one is you just got to get a piece of it. It is a long way, but you've got to know, like, I don't need to bury this guy into the ground. If I chip his hip, he's done. He's not going to get there. So it's just I need a little bit, because he's so far backside of the play. I just need a little bit of it. Obviously, bringing a tight end in, can help with some things. You can't, especially if they want to run 4 eyes, especially if that 3-4 is running 4 eyes, a tight end will help, because now the 4-eye, I can get that combo, because your 4-eye isn't going to jump into C gap And if the backer blitzes C gap, so you say, well, the 4I goes B gap, and the backer blitzes C gap, aren't you in the same situation? No, you're not, because I down block him. I either, assuming we get across, my H back kicks your, your 9 tech if you're a 5-2, let's say, or whatever that thing out there is, that outside backer. My H back, my kick out guy, my fullback, my lead blocker on power, he kicks him out. So I bring that tight end back, and you run 4 eyes. Power's back on the table because the second puller kicks your blitzing linebacker. Just becomes a kick, and I love that. I love that kick. I think that's the best. That's when you have a to me, a good pulling guard, and this is one of the reasons that I like to run power, power to one side and counter to the other side, and just keep it that way as much as possible. And then I'll even just flip the line when I run power the other way. I'll just put a flip tag, and the whole line flips, and that guard is still running power. Now instead of running 24, I'm running 25, but it's the same kids. He's just pulling to the left. Is he as good pulling to the left as he is pulling to the right? Maybe not, but what he understands is my eyes are on that backer. I'm wrapping to that backer's backside number. When that backer blitzes, a kid who really gets it, that backer blitzes, he's like, oh, great. I don't have to go through all this skip, pull, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to bury this kid who's blitzing with his eyes up and doesn't see me. Yeah, that's the easiest block in the world for a kid who can see it. So I want to run power. You're running 4 eyes. Fantastic. How do we get the 4 eyes? I probably need something to run inside. So what are those things? Inside zone, counter. Counter, we run away from the tight end. So it's that short trap. So how do you spill the counter better? Well, you start pinching a lot to spill the counter, to spill that short trap. When you start pinching or lining up in a 4-eye, I see you start doing a lot more pinching. That's how we get the 4 eyes. That's how we get the insides. And if you're pinching a lot, one of the things you got to do is you got a tendency, these guys. And we will tag them. You want to figure out, hey, where am I going to get, if you're playing a 3-3 or you're playing a 3-4 that slants, you need to game plan. But when you study film, you want to figure out where the red and the white side are, because generally there's going to be a strong tendency. And then when you get to the game, you need to figure out if they're going to keep it that way. Generally, there's going to be a strong tendency. They're going to love to slant to the tight end, or they're going to love to slant away from the tight end. They're going to love to pinch. So let's say that they love to pinch. Well, we said it's a double white. If we get a team that loves to pinch, meaning both guys are coming inside or they're lined up in 4 eyes, now it's a double red, because they're consistently, again, what's a tendency? A tendency is 70% or more. Anything less than that, we don't have enough data to really rely on it. We try to look for tendencies. And if I see, hey, they on 3rd and medium and 3rd and short, they're pinching 70% of the time. Now, I know, guys, we only get 2 exchange films. And so you might have 8 snaps of that, and that's probably generous.
Right.
But if they did it 6 times, I can at least get something out of it. Okay, that's relatively significant, right? It's not statistically, it's not at all. But I can say, look, they like to pinch on these 3rd and short downs. I know I like to pinch on those downs. Because close it off, spill it, all that kind of stuff. And now I know, okay, now it's a red. Now it's not a white. Even though it looks like a white pre-snap, now it's a red because they're consistently pinching. And then I have to trust myself enough to say, look, if they get us one time by running a strong stunt to the direction that we're going with the power, they slant to the tight end, and now we're in that situation that we were before. I go, that's okay. I still expect them in that situation the next 3 times to pinch. And so I'm going to call it again and call it again and call it again. So you need to study your film. And if you don't get to study your film, then you can't watch this. Play callers, head coach, you can't watch this during the game. Good luck. Get someone, get a parent, get a kid, get someone to chart as much as possible where those ends are going. whether it's just to confirm what you saw on film or to see if they're doing something different. Because if they're consistently slanting strong, you have to the tight end, which is what you don't want, but so be it. If they're consistently doing that, what you do have is you do have an edge weak. So hopefully you've got something like an outside zone. Your buck sweep may work there. So you've got something going to the red side because you've got an edge over there, even though you don't have a tight end. But I would know in that case, okay, power is not a good call. But if they're consistently slanting weak away from the tight end, power's back on the table. 70% of the time they slant weak and try to bring that backer. Right. Great. Fantastic. We'll take it. Or that backer goes A gap. Fine. Down, down, down. We get what we want. And that's also another, if you get really aggressive. So let's talk about aggressive 3-4s. You get the guy who thinks he's Dick LeBeau, and he's running Dick LeBeau. For those of you who are don't know, was a defensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers way back in the 20 teens and 80 years before that. Is he still? He's retired, right?
I don't know. I'll Google it.
Okay, you Google that. He's 80 something years old.
He's probably still teaching somebody somewhere.
Oh, he absolutely is. LeBeau was kind of like his 3-4 got very, very popular, and a lot of people tried to run it poorly for many, many years. You get a guy who's doing a lot of blitzing, maybe even getting into bear fronts, 3-0-3s, but doing a lot of blitzing and movement. You stop trying to combo and you down everything, meaning there are no combos. We don't know who's going to be in which gap. We just know that these 5 guys are probably going to fill up these 5 gaps. They're very aggressive. We make a down call, which means we down whoever's inside of us. If the backer walks up, we down him. If he doesn't walk up, we just turn and flat back sprint straight in a line and take whatever we can find. Because everything keeps showing up. It's just not where we expect it to be. So if you get an aggressive 3-4 that's doing a lot of blitzing on you. But I would say the biggest thing that you can do is figure out those slant tendencies, because here's the thing. Those guys are not, some of them are, you should beat these teams. Some of them are just slanting at random. Okay. You'll beat them. So let's move on. As long as you're not calling your offense at random, they're slanting at random. They're just doing whatever. They have no concept of creating fronts. They have no concept of anything on the defense other than like, I have all these things that I can do and I'm going to do them. Down it and just beat them. Just, they don't know what they're doing. They're not play calling. If they're physically better than you, that sucks for you. But, if you can figure out what they're trying to do tendency wise, you can get the advantage. And I think that's the first most important thing you can do.
The answer on the Dick LeBeau question, he officially retired in January of 2018 after he was not kept with the Tennessee Titans when Mike Vrabel was brought along. So, the dude did it for from 73 to 2018. That's pretty good.
So that's the 38 plus 7, 45 years.
That's after playing in the NFL. So,
yeah. Right.
Whew.
And the 3-4. I mean, here's the thing about the 3-4. The 3-4 gives you a lot of nice blitz angles. You can create a lot of different looks, like we've already talked about. It's very easy to reduce. So, I mean, we've talked about a multiple 3-4 can create a lot of different looks. They can shade. They can do a lot of things for you. Figure out the tendencies that what they wanted to do. They can do the fire zone blitzes and bring guys from all over the place. In general, in high school, and even I've found this with college. With I've been to a number of clinics with 3-4 guys, and they draw up 10,000 blitzes, and then they're like, and it's like they draw up the first 3, and you're like, those are really good. I can't wait to see what else he has. And he draws up 3 more, and you're like, okay. And he's like, every time he draws one up, he's like, but we don't really run that much. I'm like, you're just drawing up stuff now to show that you got. I got 3 hours to fill on these blitzes. So
right.
I'm just drawing up stuff, not criticizing. because I've got an 11-hour course on the 3-4 defense system, and I can tell you, would never run all of those things, especially not in one game plan, and almost never in one, probably never in one season. Run a lot of, I like to run a lot of fronts out of the 3-4. I like to get weird with the fronts. If you're a base 3-4, and truthfully, we were only a base 3-4 one. We may be a base 3-4 this year, but truthfully, we were a base 3-4 like 1 year that I would say like we really just, there were years we were 50-50 between 4-2-5 and 3-4. And in those years, it was like 4-2-5, jump into a 3-4 and look like a, jump into a 3-4, but really we were just slanting back to a 4-2-5 more often than not. The couple of years we were base 3-4, the 1 year, I can think of really, that was when I did a bunch of different fronts and kind of combined different alignments and different shades and things, but not a lot of blitzing that way.
I feel like after we've kind of aligned all the strengths and weaknesses here, it just seems like the down block really eliminates blitzes, which is what the 3-4 to me is really good with, right? Is
So
bringing crazy blitzes. And when, like you said a minute ago, just down, 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 everything, fill your gap with a body. Let's kick the last dude that shows up out there and put the ball in between them. You kind of alleviate all those crazy headaches. Yes, the angles may be more difficult to get, but the next dude can get them, which in my mind kind of brings pin pull back on the table. Like, that's fine. If you want to line up in 4-0-4, I'll crash down with a tight end and both my guards, and we'll pull everybody else and go to the house like it's a party. You have a convoy of 4 fat guys running in front of the fastest kid on the team. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So
and so we run our truck toss. We only pull the H back and the I say we pull the H back. We kind of pull the H back.
he like leads, right? And you pull the play side tackle. Is that right?
We pull the play side tackle. So the tight end will block down. We will do different things with the H, like we will line the H up in a wing and we will pull both of them, or we'll line the H up in a little bit wider split. We'll do it out of bunch, where we can down block on that guy with the Y from a little bit wider look and get both of them out there. Really like it out of bunch. You have to have 3. It's got to be to the 3-by-1 side though. Or the best way to do it is to the 3-by-1 side. But yeah, we'll only pull that tackle, but I don't tend to, it is, I guess it's gap scheme. It's a wide gap. We use our, from the guard back, from the puller back, we're using outside zone blocking rules. So
right.
It kind of goes under our zone family. But also, the quality of that play will depend on the alignment that you can force that outside backer into. So you can use nasty splits, tight splits, that kind of stuff to tight formations to force that outside backer to go somewhere you want him to be. If he'll jump way outside, I've done things where we when I had the right quarterback, we were running I take that back. I did not have the right quarterback when I was doing this. No, I'll tell you what happened. I had the right guys. My running back blew his knee out on the first snap of the game. Looked good during practice. Everything went off the rails, and I was on the third running back by like the third snap. We were. This is the year that I started on offense. Started 5 freshmen, 5 sophomores, and 1 junior. And when two of those freshmen are out, it gets bleak for a little bit. So, but what we did, we lined up in tight formations against a 5-2 look, and we said, hey, and it wasn't a tight formation, it was like a 3-yard split. And we said, hey, if that 9 tech goes outside shade of them, we're going to run what we call power O, which is pull the front side guard to kick out, and then lead with a split back set, lead with the H back basically. And if we get inside, then we're going to check it to I think truck toss, and we down him, pulled him, and just had that. We had that kind of series going,
right? Like if then kind of thing for your
right.
Well,
It was just all based off the alignment of that OLB or that, stand up end or OLB
Yeah.
or whatever we call it.
any final comments on attacking 3-4 with gap scheme before we start shutting it down?
No, I feel like we've been a little bit all over the place on this one, and it's because, like, for us, it's counter and inside zone. We don't. I think it's really important to understand. I don't love it. I don't love gap scheme against 3-4 because my gap scheme play personally is power. And I can't speak to buck sweep really well. I know I don't love inside trap, but I'm also not a great inside trap coach. Run a little bit here and there, but it's not something I would run against 3-4. I don't love power. I don't love trap because I like to run those to the red side. And without knowing any tendency, that's, roll of dice, not having the film to break down. So I run counter. I like counter, but I really like inside zone and I like outside zone. And so it's important to understand that. And I say that if you run a 4-2, I really like power and I don't love inside zone because I want to run inside zone strong and cut it back weak. But that means I know that I'm running inside zone to the red side and I don't love that. I don't like that look. So it's like, I'm just hoping that I can cut it back. So I don't love inside zone against that. I love power and I like counter because it's still a white, counter's still a white side to the 4-2, to the weak side, with the tight end. So it's like, it's hard to talk about it in a vacuum of gap scheme because the reality is if you're running the pistol power offense system, and I have a lot of guys who come in first year, they're like, we want to do all this. We just want to run power counter. You can do that. You run power counter and some sort of toss. I tell them you run power counter, inside trap and toss. That's the old school I formation offense, right? That's perfectly fine. And some will even do GT counter instead of using the H back. They'll they'll go in the I, and that's a perfectly fine offense. It's very, very tailback intensive. And that's where it's like, I like to get into some different stuff so I can do different things. I like to use that outside zone blocking to run jet sweep. I like to use that truck toss blocking to run a rocket toss. But that's one of the great things about the wing T is that you can run two different plays and you're hitting all three of your backs, right? You've got run game and you can use your quarterback too, but you've got run game for your fullback, out of one series. I can run buck sweep up, buck sweep right, buck trap, and everybody can touch the football. So, and I get teams that do that and they want to run power counter. But very soon after that, and I said, this is fine. Get your footing, spend your time coaching this. Because a lot of those coaches will just be like, I don't have an offensive line coach, experienced offensive line coach, or I'm short staffed, or my kids are really young. That's fine. No problem with that. And at the youth level, absolutely no problem with it. Because to me, in the youth, in the amount of youth film that I've watched, which is, way more today than it was 5 years ago, with our game film analysis, because I get plenty of youth coaches sending it in.
Right.
If you can execute on the offensive line in most youth football games is very, very poorly coached. Very poorly coached. It's, everybody's got I think their playbooks all just have a T over top of every offensive lineman, and you'll block somebody and they go whoever's there. And I get that. I get that it's hard, but I think if you invested in teaching in teaching two different plays, you'd be pretty good. And then run a toss to your fastest kid around the edge. But that said, once we get past 10-year-olds, once we're coaching middle school, we're coaching 7th graders, 8th graders, they have the full capability, as long as you can coach it, to run the full pistol power offense system, which is power counter, inside zone, outside zone, because it's only 2 blocking schemes, and toss. It's only 2 blocking schemes. As long as you can coach it, they can run that. They can run that relatively effectively. And maybe you don't teach combos. You teach down, down, down. So just down, down, down everything, and we'll let it all sort itself out. So yeah, in a vacuum gap scheme, it's like, how do you solve it? It's like we can, as long as you have a play that hits inside, you have a play that hits off tackle, you have a play that hits the perimeter, and you have a play that's the misdirection. So you have power off tackle, you have inside zone or trap inside, you have toss outside, you have a perimeter, and you have counter as your misdirection. As long as you have that, you can adjust to these things and you can do some formation things, but really like to have those zone scheme runs with it in order to really attack 3-4.
Awesome. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're probably more knowledge than any coach is ever supposed to have. So congratulations.
I don't know what that means.
That means you're hella smart at football, Joe Daniel. And
My social skills are terrible, though. It's like a trade-off.
Sheldon Cooper, we already talked about this.
Right.
Start the podcast. You're the Sheldon Cooper of football. Congratulations.
So that's all I've ever wanted to be.
That's right. That's all we all ever want. We watched that, and all of us with that weird gene went, shit, I could be a astroscience physicist genius.
No. You know why I could never do that?
Why is that?
Homework.
But when you're that smart, you don't even have to do it just does itself. You look at it and you're like, oh yeah.
I would never even take. I'm pretty sure that I was a history major because I found the one where it was like, show up and fill out this blue book,
learn dates,
and like
take a test.
There were no, at least in my college and the professors that I had, there was no other requirement for history than 3 times a semester fill out this blue book. And how you got that information. Now, it was helpful that I enjoyed history and I could sit and I could listen and I could process everything that you said. And I also was smart enough to know that the things that you were saying was the things that you wanted to hear. Right. I don't hand you a textbook and expect, I don't stand here and talk for 90 minutes or for an hour, 3 days a week for 6 weeks, and then hand you a blue book and ask you to recite to me what you read in the textbook. Like, no. I just spent 18 hours telling you about this stuff. Tell it back to me and tell it back to me the way that I told it to you. Like, slip in my jokes. That's history. That's how you do well in history. Then
it's all about the jokes.
Yeah, slide in their jokes.
And the good stories.
Slide in their good stories. Yes, I absolutely had a professor, fantastic professor, and everybody else didn't like him because he was probably weird like me. I always sat up front. It was one of those things. I would sit up front, not because I was like kissing up to him, but because I liked, where I liked that spot in the classroom, and I would sit up front, and he would ask a question to the class, and I would just wait until he got tired of waiting, and then he would just be like, "Yes," and I'd be like, "I know," he'd just be like, "Look at me," and I'd tell him the answer because I remember what he said last time. Like,
it's a beautiful mind.
He told a 45-minute, it wasn't 45 minutes. It was probably 20 or 25 minutes about covered bridges in New England. And keep in mind, this is like a European history class or something like that. And in fact, it wasn't U.S. history because when I don't think it was U.S. history because I had a different professor for U.S. history because he was out that semester. He's an older guy. He just starts talking about covered bridges. That was like one of his passions, was covered bridges. He's talking for like, let's say 25 minutes about covered bridges in New England. And I'm looking around the room. And again, like European history class. There are people sitting there scrawling notes on covered bridges. And my pen is down. I'm just listening to them talk about covered bridges. How is this going to be on a test in European history? You guys, he's just talking. See, that's not the way that like economics and science work. It's like science is like, here's the number. You got to memorize this stuff and you got to do all these formulas and stuff. And I'm like, that sucks. I don't want to do that. I want to listen to a guy talk about covered bridges knowing full well this is just a waste of 25 minutes. And I got the stuff he talked about. I don't know. I liked history. I didn't like the other stuff. I still got A's and B's in it, but
First of all, science is the king. Okay, let's just go there first. Punnett squares. That's all you need to know. And then secondarily, one of my favorite courses was a World War II history class. Helps I'm in the army probably, but I found I really love military history. I got to go to Gettysburg, and I learned a really cool story there that I'll tell sometime on the air. Maybe I don't know, but essentially, a officer made a joke of the entire army, and they made a statue of him, so it was great. But yeah.
We played Gettysburg College my freshman or sophomore year. Went to Gettysburg. And here's I've never been to Gettysburg for like actual history. And I was too. I was big into military history. Like I used to buy the military history magazines and stuff after I graduated. I used to love that stuff. And I just there came a point with history where there's like a law, there's like diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You either had to pick something and really, really drill down really deep in it, or otherwise you kind of knew all of it. And football is in a way the same. Like I have to know when I go to a clinic talk. I had this whole thought process of like when you're brand new to something, a clinic talk is good because like you got the first 80%, like you walked out of there feeling like you kind of understood this thing. And when you're intermediate level, a clinic talk is good only if it teaches you the like advanced stuff and you're like, oh, don't tell me all this baby 4-2 stuff. Like I'm ready for the zone blitz package or whatever, or some crazy, here's how you stop the whatever. Those are the people that I love to work with. Not that there's anything wrong being intermediate, but again, there's some people that don't know they're not intermediate yet. And then there is there's the point where you become advanced. And at that point, you look at a clinic and you're like, and when I look at a clinic and if I pay $100 to go to a clinic, or if I buy a course and I pay $300 for it, if I'm at an advanced level, if I get one thing out of that, if I get one thing that I think is going to help me win a football game, it's like totally worth it.
There you go.
So it's like a different deal. And history was that way for me too, was like, I really enjoyed school. After I graduated, I really enjoyed reading the things that I didn't, that were less. So I'd read books about like, just random, like, the US war with Mexico, right? Like you didn't talk about that 1846 to 1848. You didn't talk about that. It was like a footnote in any class that you took, and you just moved on. And so when I got to do my own thing, I'm like reading books about the US war with Mexico. There's 2, by the way.
Read them both twice.
Read them both. And I was like, I know everything there is to know about that now. And then it was like, either I'm going to drill down to find, and I was teaching, and I was like, so I have to do all the basic stuff. So I'm either going to drill down into something, or I'm going to move to Iowa, coach junior college for a year, come back and start a whole new subject and do math. Because I need
We
to
know
start.
how that turned out.
And then I ended up just starting it, like just putting everything into business. Because and now I'm kind of, even though stuff doesn't always, I'm in that intermediate level of business, probably.
Dunning-Kruger effect. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, yeah.
When you think you know more than you do.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Dunning-Kruger effect though so much, but yeah, that was it.
Science.
I don't know what we're talking about. Science.
Anyway,
Science.
We will.
Science is dumb.
Jesus. Well, I hope you don't think so, because you sell a speed program based on physics, which is science.
Physics is technically science, and I took an environmental science class, and I did very well in that. That was like later in life. I feel like science is one of those things I could go to now and be like, this is cool. Like I love space stuff. Like I'll watch whole YouTube 45-minute shows about like different like distant planets, and like, there's like planets that are made out of diamonds and stars and all that sorts of, like, I love the astronomy stuff. But like when I was in college, I took an astronomy class, and the first 6 weeks was the history of astronomy. And I was like, this is great. And then the next 12 weeks was about physics. And at that point in time, I was like, it's not great.
Physics is amazing. Connor, I see you type math here in the YouTube chat, and math is not there. Here's
Math
why
is
math
great.
is good. Here's why math is good. Because all their homework is online now. That's why math is great. So if you're a math teacher,
Yeah, I don't know how math works now.
you've got it easy.
Yeah.
IXL, and then you just tell the kids to do that thing. That's it.
I did not like math. I was always good at math. But I didn't like it until I was teaching it, and then I got kind of into it. So I think later, I think now I could like probably go into like something else and enjoy it, like science or math.
Lifelong learner. I like it. All right, let's pay the bills and get out of here before we talk about everything in college. You can go to join.joedanielfootball.com, get access for $1 for defensive packages. That's 43, 425, 3334, 34, which we talked extensively about tonight. And then, of course, the Pistol Power offense. You can also get access to the Chalkboard Forum. Chalkboard Forum is where you can go and ask your questions any hour of the day. Someone's going to answer them. Joe eventually will come in and give you his 2 cents, which are, genius. He is the Sheldon Cooper of the football world, obviously. Chalk Talks are now weekly now that we're into the end season. So stop by every generally Monday nights, but you can check into the, you'll get an email. If you're not getting the emails, jump over to joedanielfootball.com/foundations, sign up for that. 1, you get all the cool videos that Joe talked about to start this episode. And 2, that will get you the emails about the Chalk Talks. So,
no, I won't get you emails about Chalk Talks.
Oh, not until you sign up, huh?
Yeah, not until you sign up. But you get
Well,
you a lot
there
of
you
emails.
go.
Get you a
You're
lot
going to
of
get you some emails, and then you can sign up because you'll love it. As soon as you get an email about Darth Vader, you'll be like, this is the one. This is the football group I've been waiting for.
That got sent out recently.
Yeah, I love them. That's
in fact, I think it wasn't supposed to be, and I was like, throw it in.
Run it. And then game film analysis, of course. If you sign up for the platinum group, platinum level, then you get the game film analysis. Ship in your game film on Friday night or Saturday morning or whatever. Earlier the better. For those of you that have been doing it late, don't do it late. And Joe or one of his cronies will go through your film and knock out the low hanging fruit and tell you, where you can get better.
Highly experienced, couple of highly experienced coaches that are going to be helping out this year. So
that's right. They're not just cronies; they're highly experienced cronies.
No, I mean they're dudes who know what they're doing.
That's right.
Which is critical. I think it's awesome to have other people. I think this is where. So this is August 3rd. This episode comes out. This is where JDFB separates itself more so than any other time of year. Is a lot of those places go into hiding right now, and all the coaches are busy. They can't get on and do Q&As because they've got their own teams. I do too. I'm on there every Monday night.
You got like 20. You got 25 teams or something.
Yeah, I have
a bunch of them.
There's a level here that it's legitimately I want to be on your staff. I have teams that I work with, obviously the ones who send in their film with game film analysis. I know more about than others. And I have teams that have been doing that for years now. And like I've seen kids grow up on their teams, and being involved with your team, answering your questions on Monday night about game planning, answering your questions on the Chalkboard Forum, watching your game film if you're a platinum member. This is where JDFB really separates. I think we've got a lot of great stuff. I do think I do a good job teaching it and breaking it down into a way that coaches can take it and apply it to your players and use it. But this is where the level of support, the level of assistance goes up above anyone else that I know of.
Yeah. While we're talking about ads here, I just actually want to talk about Athletic Speed Movement one more time. I had a conversation today, and it'll be in the testimonials page on the website if you go to athleticspeedmovement.com. And you can go talk to Coach Herberg from Minnesota. And this guy has done nothing too great. He's just won. He's been to every state game or something since 2009. I don't know. It's a crap ton of them, right? And he's brought a bunch of those trophies home. And he talked about the beginning of strength training And when very few teams were doing strength training, it was an obvious advantage. And it didn't catch on. Not everybody understood it. It was kind of complicated. It took up time that coaches didn't know they had. And then all of a sudden it was like, if you aren't doing it, you're the minority and you're behind. And that's where speed training is going. And if you go over to athleticspeedandmovement.com, you will find a system there that is easy to install. It's easy to understand. And with his words, it elevates every kid on your team, and it makes your non-functional kid that usually just end up like kind of being a water boy, you ask him to be a manager next year, he's a functional member of your team. And your C players to B players, and that's kind of like your A players. You're not doing a lot for them. Like, you can make their form a little bit better, and they're gonna get faster, but it may not be noticeable because they were already the fast kid. But it's those C players that are going to come up to be a B player. And now you're three deep at every position with a functional body because you just focused in on this one little thing. And he was in love with the idea, and he basically said, no one's doing this yet. So if you want that strength training advantage again, it's kind of like the stock market, right? Everybody wishes they would have bought in at the beginning of everything, and it was strength training back then, and it's speed training now, and kind of this is your chance. So jump over to athleticspeedandmovement.com. Look, you can sign up and just see a couple of the videos. Same thing like foundations, right? You're throwing your email in there, and you're going to get some emails from us, and you can learn a little bit more about it before you go all in. You can email us, you can talk to us, you can hit me up on Twitter, whatever it is, and we can have a conversation about athletic speed movement before things get going. But Dale Basket's had this thing ironed out for 45 years. Every time I talk to someone, they talk about how amazing he is, and no one else can replicate his.
He's had it ironed out for 45 years. And I can tell you this because Daniel and I both talk to him on a regular basis, obviously working with this. He is not satisfied with what he has ironed out. Because, I tell him how amazed I am at the results we've gotten from the thing that he taught us 10 years ago. And he's like, oh, that's not even close to what I'm doing now or what I've got coming next. Or it's always, just like we just, overhauled 3-3 stack system. Like that's what he's doing every that's what he's sitting around thinking about is overhauling this year one level 1 speed movement course to make it even better, to make it more efficient, to make it more like it doesn't need to be 20 minutes because it's 20 minutes. If I can make it 12, it's gonna be and get the same results. Like that's like it just constantly trying to make it better. That's where he's at.
Yeah. So hop over to athleticspeedandmovement.com and you can kind of see what we're talking about. The price only goes up from here. So jump in, share it with your track coach, share it with your basketball coach, your tennis coach, whoever. Make them all fast.
It's all universal. I mean, yeah, the base level one I think is universal. Yeah.